welcome to Above Replacement Radio. I am your host, Chris Gianta. You know what Christy Mathewson wasn't worried about? SIERA. When you're thinking about Pedro Ciriaco, I mean, the only one that can compete is maybe Hannes Wagner's 1908 season. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran.
Like, if we just clip together every time we've talked about him on other people's profiles, we've done a Mickey Cochran episode.
I can't get past Rabbit Marinville. It's not necessarily Hall of Fame. It's not necessarily above average, but we can guarantee you we are better than just the standard replacement level college sophomore.
And welcome to Above Replacement Radio, where we're talking baseball kind of whenever. I am your host, Chris Gianta. Over there on the other side of the screen is Daniel Curran. How you doing, Daniel?
Chris, I'm doing really well. It is postseason time. We have reached the end of the regular season, and what a regular season it was. Jacob deGrom with an 0.62 ERA to end it. I mean, that's insanity. I'm so excited for the postseason, though. It's going to be so great.
Yeah, I mean, just an unbelievable slew of matchups. We got the expanded postseason this year. We got 16 teams in the playoffs, and happy. I bet some teams are just happy to see that. Maybe I guess the Dodgers would have made it anyway in a regular format, but the Dodgers, regarded to as maybe the best team in baseball before the season, going to be representing the 7 seed out of the National League, and going to be going over to Wrigley Field for the 3-game set against the Cubs. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, they expanded this thing at the beginning of last season for a reason, because teams like the Dodgers, who the league desperately needs in the postseason. Sometimes you're gonna have a slump like that. I mean, the Yankees are gonna be representing the 8 seed. I mean, who could have predicted that? So I mean, the Dodgers would have made it anyway in the regular format, but you gotta have some sort of safety net for your marketable teams, because we've been talking for years. Market the game, get the guys out there that need to be out there. That's not happening if the Dodgers don't make the postseason, or if they're one and done in a wild card game against the Padres. So it's important that we give the league that safety net, and it's going to be a fun postseason. I'm excited for another 8-game Wednesday coming up this week.
Yeah, it's gonna be huge. I think we're not gonna get into a award season yet, but we do have to note that these awards are being voted upon now by the writers. The National League Cy Young looks like a very interesting race, because Jacob deGrom missed a few starts. However, he was one of the best pitchers in baseball, and then definitely won the ERA title pretty comfortably. But then you have Brandon
ERA plus.
Yeah, very extremely good. And then you have Brandon Woodruff and Kevin Gausman, who made all their starts and were also excellent. Had lower ERAs than both of last year's Cy Young winners. It's just, I don't know what's going to happen there.
It's gonna be very interesting. But you know what? We'll talk about that after the month. But I mean, World Series predictions. I mean, what do you got?
It's tough to say now. It's as opposed to the 60-game sprint, I feel like the playoffs are a 4-series marathon. It goes on for a while. I don't know. World Series predictions, it might be another repeat of 1 seed versus 1 seed. Maybe like everyone predicted, you see Giants Rays. I don't know.
See, I have an AL East NL West matchup, but it's not that one. I got Rays Padres. We're getting a first-time World Series victor this year.
Yeah, there we go.
I think the Padres, they're just due for success. Fernando Tatis Jr. is due to take that next step in the postseason, as is the whole team. I really hope. I hope we can get another Dodgers-Padres playoff series. But I mean, as far as the Rays, they play the Yankees in the first round, so we all know that they're going to win that one. And then they get, I believe, the winner of Red Sox and Astros.
Yeah, they will.
That'll be interesting. I think the Red Sox could give them a run. They won the season series 3-0 against the Rays. So that can certainly be interesting. But the Red Sox got to get to the Astros first, and the Astros took 3 out of 4 from them. And if they got to face the Astros, well, the Rays beat them last year. So I think the Rays have the clearest road to the World Series in the entire league. I think the NL is definitely a lot more unpredictable. But it's, you know what? I mean, only time will tell how right that is.
Yeah. All right. So that was our recap of the 2021 regular season.
Yeah.
We just did that because yeah, on Sunday was the 67th day of the regular season. That was the amount of days last year's regular season was, which kind of puts everything into perspective as to how short that really was.
Yeah.
Like we predicted that this day would come and we would be like, wow, but yeah, wow. It's pretty wild, but yeah, that's how this regular season would have looked. Obviously,
Yeah.
it would have been different. They would have had every team get to 60 games. That's definitely not the case now. The Mets have only played 52, I believe. So
Yeah. Jacob DeGrom has 58 innings pitched. He wouldn't even qualify for the standard ERA title.
Right, yeah. So that wouldn't have been formidable, but yeah, kind of crazy that that season went that quickly. But we have some things to talk about today. I think the issue of spin rate has been a topic for the entire season, and it's becoming even more of a topic of hand lately as some notable pitchers have had decreases in spin rate, as Major League Baseball has talked about more serious enforcement of the rules. So it's looking like the game might be changing here.
Yeah, it was last week that the minor leagues suspended 4 different pitchers 10 games for using foreign substances, and spin rates have they've been a focus point ever since then. And the 2 headliners, like we mentioned, in the spin rate scandals with sticky stuff are Gerrit Cole and Trevor Bauer. And Gerrit Cole, in his first start back, he got lit up by the Rays, and the spin rate on his fastball, which is in the top 5 percentile, it was down 116 RPMs, which is pretty severe. His knuckle curve was down 70 RPM, his changeup was down 71, and his slider was down 45. And then there was Trevor Bauer, who pitched yesterday on Sunday against the Atlanta Braves, and he still pitched well, all things considered. He had 7 strikeouts in 6 innings, which is a good sign. But the spin rate on his 4-seam fastball was down 210 RPMs. The slider was down 50. Cutter was down 64. Knuckle curve was down 45. Changeup, he only threw 2 changeups or 3 changeups. So this is gonna sound more drastic than it really is. It was down 266, and his sinker, which he threw 1 of, which was down 231. So those 2, they sound a lot more extreme than they really are, just because of small sample size. But I mean, there's been a noticeable difference so far in the era of we're actually gonna do something about this, and it started with the headliners.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like you mentioned before the show, those are the two biggest names you think about when you think about foreign substances correlating to spin rate and the accusations being thrown their way. The obviously the Bauer case is the most interesting because he was calling it out in 2018, and then I think he became then then he started being like, all right, well, this isn't going to change, so I'm gonna go with them, and I'm actually gonna probably use the most egregious substance possible. So that was probably the most interesting out of all the cases. But
I don't mean to make this comparison. I mean, I do mean to make this comparison, but I mean, I'm not saying this player is as good as that player, but Trevor Bauer's role in this kind of reminds me of Barry Bonds, because he didn't plan on doing steroids when they were out, but in 1998 that happened. And he was like, all right, well, you know what? If this is gonna happen, I'm gonna go out and hit 73 home runs, and what are they gonna do about it?
yeah, I mean, that's actually a decent comparison, in terms of changing the game in a way, because yeah, like the alleged Barry Bonds decision to take steroids was allegedly after the 1998 season, and he talked about like I see all these guys hitting home runs. Now I know why they're hitting those home runs or that crazy amount of home runs. So why not? Why am I not able to do it? So he started doing it,
Already the
and
best player in the league anyway.
yeah, like fun fact, I think in 1998 he still led the league in wins above replacement, which is pretty crazy to think about. After McGuire and Sosa,
Wasn't the idea that he started juicing during the season, like mid-season or something, probably?
yeah, it potentially.
It could have been a thing. I guess we don't know. I mean, there's allegations. He may have done that. He may have done this. And Barry's not gonna say anything, at least until he's in the Hall of Fame, because I mean that's the one thing that's keeping him out right now. And there's no doubt he wants to be there. He's talked about being blackballed and how the league is, it's him against the world seemingly with the writers. So he's not gonna give the writers a leg to stand on during this time, obviously.
But yeah, going.
But Trevor Bauer's being open and honest about everything. I mean, he has the legalized pine tar shirt on his website, which I know that pine tar isn't exactly the big issue. It goes far beyond that, but it obviously shows he's for the idea of foreign substances, because technically pine tar is a foreign substance. It's not legal.
Yeah, right. And I believe he's proposed the idea of one universal substance that that pitchers can use, but yeah, his spin rates went down. I would imagine if this does get enforced, we'll see countless spin rates going down. Maybe not to the extent of Trevor Bauer, where it's like minus 200 RPM on the fastball, but it might be 70 or 80 RPM, closer to like a Gerrit Cole range. And yeah, I mean, it's if they do enforce it, I think it would be brilliant on Major League Baseball's end to the year they deaden the baseballs and offense kind of goes down. They also enforce the advantages on the pitching side of things by enforcing the the abuse of foreign substances and taking that away from them.
Yeah.
Because obviously offense is down this year. If you take away the foreign substances, not only will it raise offense, but it'll decrease the reliance on home runs for offense probably as well, because it's going to be easier to get hits.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think realistically, like, everyone complains about like hitters are going all or nothing, because realistically it's a lot harder to string singles together and get some runs in by station to station, moving guys around. Like, that's not as realistic as it used to be, just because it's so damn hard to hit like on a repeated cycle like that.
Yeah, it is very hard. Yeah, it's obviously very hard to hit. I don't know, it's like a chicken or the egg situation. Like, did averages go down because of the new approach, or is the new approach because of averages going down? You don't know. But like for comparison, the league average, Major League Baseball batting average right now is 237. If you go back even to 2010, which is outside the steroid era, or 2009 actually, which is outside the steroid era, it was all the way up to 262. So
yeah, well,
already
wasn't 2009 like the start of the strikeout revolution though? Like, I'm pretty sure 2009 was like the league, like the highest strikeout rate of all time at that point, which obviously it's not even close now. Yeah, it was. Yeah, 2009 set the record for most strikeouts in a season. So I mean, the new approach had kind of been weaving its way in a little bit.
Yeah, so yeah, it's gone, from 262, 257, 255, 255, 253, 251, then back up to 254. That was when that's when Manfred came in. 2015 it started going back up, and then it started going down after 2019, which was supposedly the end of the juice ball era. But yeah, like it was it's kind of been an issue as to pitchers being a little too overpowered, and I think that it's potentially changing, which is probably good for the game. We don't need to be seeing all these strikeouts and this lack of action on the bases.
Yeah. No, you're right.
But yeah, I think that does it for the spin rate discussion for today. We probably will be talking
this is
about
very
it.
much not the end of it.
Yeah,
This is just the beginning.
We will be talking about it throughout the season until I'm gonna guess there's gonna be punishments laid out eventually.
Well, I mean, I think the real event comes with the CBA next year.
Oh yeah,
Because you talk about league, like players association versus league, it might turn into a batters versus pitchers thing. Because maybe all pitchers think like Trevor Bauer, and all pitchers want some sort of substance, and hitters are like, yeah, no, we don't need that. We don't want that in our league. And the owners are kind of just like, what are we doing here?
yeah.
Because I mean, we know that the owners are gonna try everything to get their own way. That's we've seen that countless times in the last. I mean, I guess it was this time last year, really, when we started. That started becoming super public.
Right. Yeah. And yeah, obviously another big thing will be the things that Kevin Mather discussed in the off season, which was the service time manipulation. That'll probably be the biggest. That might be the biggest thing to change, but I don't know. You never know. All right. Well, that's the spin rate discussion for today. There were some IL designations being handed out. First of all, John Means was pulled out of a start on Saturday against the Indians due to a shoulder strain. And yeah, not the best. I think his numbers have been declining, so it might be a correlation to issues with his shoulder. But yeah, it's not really like the Orioles weren't really going anywhere, but it's really tough for a guy who is having a career year thus far.
Yeah, you said it right there. Like, obviously, if you're an Orioles fan, like this team isn't supposed to be fun to watch. And that's it is what it is right now. But John Means gives you a reason to watch, and like just having that one reason, like it really does make a difference from a fan perspective. Like as a perennial last place team, like you just if there's something to watch, you're gonna cling on to that really heavily, and that's what the Orioles should be doing with John Means. Um, so over his last four starts, he's pitched 19 innings, 16 strikeouts with a 5.21 ERA. He's given up at least, I guess, I mean, he did have some good innings in there, mixing in with some bad ones. 6 1/3 innings pitched, 4 earned runs. 7 innings pitched, 2 earned runs. 5 innings pitched, 3 earned runs. And then the bad one came on June 5th, 2 days ago in Cleveland. Didn't make it out of the first inning, gave up 2 earned runs. So I think that's definitely, that's obviously where he got taken out due to injury. But I mean, he was struggling within that game, so I think, it is pretty easy to see that.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the strain might have anything to do with fatigue. I'm not sure. I don't know if Means is used to the kind of workload he's been getting. He before the injury, it was he had uh he had I believe 70 innings. Yeah, he had 70 innings under his belt in the team's first 53 games, which is something a pitcher might not be used to at this point. And he's looking at pitch counts consistently, like over 90 pitches. So I don't know. Maybe it's fatigue, but if it was a fatigue problem, they would they would label it shoulder fatigue. So I'm not sure, but hopefully it's something that I imagine it's something that he will be able to come back from soon enough. Hopefully it's not an extended problem.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that the Orioles kind of need to have. Even if they're not going to go anywhere, like this gives them an identity. On the mound, especially, the Orioles are one of the perennially worst pitching teams in the league. John Means is the outlier, and he's the guy that can sort of lead the way for everyone else. But if he can't do that, like that's an issue.
Yeah, it is. It is very
trying
tough.
to find what his velocity in his last start. I wonder if that took a tick down.
Oh, that's actually very interesting.
Because I think it's a fair question.
Yeah. Yeah, that could potentially have been a sign.
Yeah.
I know when last year with the Braves, when Mike Fulton-Nevich had an issue with velocity, they just sent him down immediately. But
Really nothing. His fastball was up a mile per hour. His curveball was up almost 2. Same with his changeup. No real change there. No real change in anything by the numbers. I think he just wasn't feeling it. I mean, obviously he wasn't feeling it. But it doesn't. There's no real like numerical data that shows like a clear sign of he was obviously hurt.
yeah,
Which is interesting.
yeah, pretty interesting. Maybe he was just fighting through it. But yeah, John Means on the IL. We talked about how the Giants are, if the regular season went like last year, the San Francisco Giants would be the 1 seed. And one of the big reasons why they are the 1 seed in thus far in 2021 is because of the resurgence of Evan Longoria. Unfortunately, on I don't know if it was Friday or Saturday. I think it was Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
He collided with Brandon Crawford on a ground ball, and I believe sprained his shoulder and will be out 4 to 6 weeks. This one hurts for the San Francisco Giants.
It does.
And yeah, I mean, for context, Evan Longoria was hitting .280 with an .892 OPS and a 150 OPS plus in 2021. Was kind of a catalyst for their offense this year, but will be going on the IL for 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, if you look at pretty much any of his rolling charts for 2021, whether it be like WOBA, expected slugging, batting average, X batting average, exit velo, average exit velo, or not average exit velo, but like basically any of them, like it's pretty, it seems pretty obvious that like he was on an uptick right now. Like his expected slugging is at the highest point that it's been all season right now, and he was kind of, he started out really strong, and then he got into a pretty big slump, and then he got out of it. He's walking less, or he's walking severely more. I'm sorry, not less. He's chasing a lot less. Like he was showing signs of his 2008 self, and it really sucks for the Giants because it sucks for a lot of people because obviously it sucks for the Giants. Luckily, it's only I think 4 to 6 weeks, so it's not too severe. But I mean, one of the things I talked about with Longoria individually, and I'll repeat this for a while, is that he's probably like 1 or 2 solid years away from being a legit Hall of Fame contender.
Right. Yeah. And like there's data to back it up.
Yeah. There's a lot of data to back it up. And I mean, he's closer and closer to getting there with every, good day he has. And obviously that's going to have to be put on halt for the next month and a half.
Yeah. And it's really unfortunate that it's an injury like that, a sprained shoulder where you don't know if it's going to fully recover. And, also that plays a major role in your swing, obviously.
I think the one like way where the Giants can kind of look at this and say, okay, this isn't too bad is that, one of Longoria's roles on the team is to be, a veteran leader. But luckily they also have Brandon Crawford and Buster Posey who have been performing very well this year. So, I mean, that role isn't totally lost on the field without his presence. It doesn't make them a better team not having Longoria, but at the very least, one of his big roles on the team can be filled by 2 other guys.
Yeah. And he could, he'll still probably be in the dugout as well, doing whatever he can to support whoever will be playing third base in his place, which seems to be either Wilmer Flores or Mauricio Dubon.
Yep.
Will probably be filling that role. Yeah, Longoria's savant statistics are actually pretty wild. He's in the 97th percentile for expected WOBA.
He was a how about that for a reason.
Yeah, and he's kept it going. Most of our how about that's They kind of slow down a little bit after, but his hot streak has really just not stopped.
Well, I mean, he did go through a pretty big slump, like during the end of April, early May.
Okay, yeah, but
But he got back to it. Like, everyone's gonna go through slumps, and it's how you rebound. And Evan Longoria rebounded even better than he did at the start of the season.
Yeah, like the 100th percentile in hard hit rate is just not something I expected from a 35-year-old.
No, unless it's Nelson Cruz, but he's 41.
But yeah, a 35-year-old Evan Longoria is not what I expected, especially with how his career seemed to be trending. But yeah, he was turning it around. Hopefully a solid recovery, and he can get right back to it 4 to 6 weeks from now.
Exactly.
But yeah, do we have any other news before we get into?
I wanted to talk about the Red Sox Yankees series.
All right, yeah,
because that's been a pretty big topic of discussion. Like,
no opposition here.
Yeah, no. I mean, listen, Chris and I are both Red Sox fans. We've stated that plenty of times, and I feel like we do kind of try to stay away from the Red Sox just to avoid like a homer perspective. But this is a story right now. Like, the Yankees are 31-29 after getting swept in their own home by the Red Sox. The first time the Red Sox have swept in Yankee Stadium in 10 years. The Yankees have lost, I believe, 10 of their last 13.
Yeah, something like correct.
that. They've gotten swept for the second time in like a week and a half period, because they also got swept by the Tigers. I mean, like, where do we start? Because I mean, the clear issue right now is the offense. There's been a lot of Yankee fans calling for Aaron Boone's head, and I get it. I really do understand it, but this is more than just a one-person thing. Like, this is a lot of people.
Yeah, it's weird. It's they've had an interesting season because we already had one segment talking about the Yankees' struggles earlier this year. Mm-hmm. Then they kind of went on a hot streak, and now they're back on their cold streak. And I'm trying to look at when it got bad, because I mean, like, we all know they have the potential. They swept the White Sox, just 2 weeks ago, and then it started going bad for them. So yeah, they've gone 3 and they've lost 10 of their last 13, like you said. And I'm trying to look at the offensive statistics to go with that.
They've grounded into the most double plays in the league. That's obviously going to kill you.
Yeah.
They only have, how many hitters do they have with a? Yeah, it looks like they only have 5 qualified hitters with a weighted runs created plus above 100, and half of them are below 110. And the other one's Giancarlo Stanton, who was hurt. And then there's, like, Aaron Judge has basically been carrying the entire offense. Like, Stanton was very good for a while, then he got hurt, and ever since then he's struck out virtually every at-bat. He's also walking a pretty concerning amount, a 9.9% walk rate for Giancarlo Stanton. Like, I expect better than that from him.
Right.
Gleyber Torres, he's been hot lately, but I mean, I always kind of had some doubts on him, because since the start of 2019, which was his best season, he is a below average hitter when he plays teams that aren't the Orioles. He sort of just feeds off that. But nonetheless, like, he's still 24 years old, and you expect better than a 106 weighted runs created plus, even if it is just through 50 games, and he's been better recently. Like, you need more than that. Gio Urshela's at a 105. Gary Sanchez is at a 103, and I mean, Gary Sanchez has been a pretty big talking point, and I think we all know, how Yankee fans feel about him.
Right. Yeah, and one of my slightly alarmings from last episode was DJ LeMahieu, and you can check out the statistical breakdown on the last episode. But yeah, he, I think it was a 23 game span leading up to that episode, he was hitting 205 with a 496 OPS. He had only had one extra base hit in that 23 game span, and also when in a situation where he was specializing in the previous 2 years, in that 23 game span he was only hitting 111 with runners in scoring position. Mm-hmm. And as a team in their last 13 games, the Yankees have a 78 weighted runs created plus.
That's an issue.
That is 27th That is 27th in Major League Baseball and 14th in the American League at a 15.
That can't happen. Like that, the Yankees lineup is too good for a 78 over any period of time, more than like 2 games.
Yeah, and when you think of the Yankees struggling, you would expect it to be the pitching to be the issue, but
yeah, I was gonna say the last time we talked about the Yankees struggling, it was the rotation behind Cole, and now it's the offense.
Yeah, it's and yeah, the offense just hasn't really been the same this year overall. I would say just in general, but it's been really weird. Yeah, the Yankees in this 13-game span have been pretty dead on middle of the pack in terms of pitching. You can't blame it all. You can't blame it on that at all. They are 15th, I believe, in ERA in their last 13 games. You know, so it's obviously an offensive problem. They're they're 16th in Major League Baseball in ERA. So yeah, it's an offensive problem. They got swept in their own stadium by the Red Sox for the first time since 2011. So that kind of says something about how kind of bad it's been for the Yankees for the past couple weeks or so.
Do you think Aaron Boone makes it to the end of the season?
All right. I mean, I feel like there's potential for him to be fired because, if the offense isn't performing, maybe it's a clubhouse issue. Maybe guys aren't motivated. Because when it's your everyday players who are not performing, maybe it's a lack of motivation or something. I'm not sure. But I don't know. That's a very good question. I think he will survive the season. I feel like the Yankees will get hot again eventually.
Oh, they absolutely will.
I don't know. I feel like they'll be in a position to make it to the playoffs. So I feel like they won't fire him mid-season. But I could see a scenario where, like John Farrell, where they make the playoffs, they get eliminated again, and then they fire him.
I think this should be his last chance. Like he had a World Series like borderline favorite every single year that he's been there, and he hasn't gotten it done yet. He hasn't even gotten to the World Series.
Yeah, and this is his 4th year.
Yeah, and I know he played like. It is funny because when you look at the teams that they lost to in the playoffs, all those like in the Aaron Boone era, all those teams were better than the Yankees.
Yeah.
Like the 2018 Red Sox were better than them. The 2019 Astros were better than them, and the 2020 Rays were better than them. But I mean, the Yankees haven't had the best record in the American League at any point since like the 2010, 2011, 2012 days, somewhere around there.
Yeah. And like 2018, they were expected to be the world beaters. They had, they won 91 games the year before. They were developing. They were going to get a full year. Torres was coming up. They had just recently acquired Giancarlo Stanton, who had won the MVP. Yeah, they were supposed to be like the new big bad Yankees, and then they got a wild card to finish, and then they kind of overperformed in 2019 because they hadn't really acquired anybody and they had injuries. But I mean, the fact that they haven't reached a World Series is just you can't really have that. And Boone has been there this is his 4th year now, and if he goes 4 years without being able to make the World Series, it might be time to part ways. The same way it wouldn't be really a John Farrell situation. It would probably be more of a Don Mattingly situation.
Yeah, that's a good point because I mean, like the Dodgers were supposed to be world beaters. By the way, one of my favorite things, I'm from New York, so I know a lot of Yankee fans. Yankee fans are like set on the fact that they're gonna fire Aaron Boone and get Don Mattingly. Even when I tell them that Don Mattingly is already employed under contract by a major league team, and I believe said contract even goes through the end of 2021.
Yeah.
What is his manager stats? Does it have his manager contract? Does it have his Does it tell me like when his contract is up with the Marlins?
Yeah, and
I
he's
don't know.
managing for a team whom he won Manager of the Year for last
A
year.
team that has a very bright future ahead of them. Yeah.
Right.
And a team that has become a lot more competent with the way they run things over the last few years too.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, that's weird.
It is. I hear it every single like. I mean, it's mostly people who watched Don Mattingly play growing up
Right.
because they want that nostalgia factor. Dodger fans hated Don Mattingly, might I add, from a manager standpoint. And I don't know how much different that would have been had he had that career with the Dodgers. Like, I don't understand the whole like hire a manager because they gave you a lot of good feelings as a player. That's kind of where the Yankees. I'm gonna be honest. I don't think Aaron Boone gets that job if he doesn't hit the home run in 2003. I really don't.
Right. Yeah.
Because I mean, think about it. Aaron Boone hits the home run. He goes over to ESPN. When you look at the guys that were over at ESPN at the time, it was because of one big moment that really got them there. Dallas Braden, does he get to ESPN with if he doesn't throw a perfect game? I don't know. It's hard to say. Does Aaron Boone get there if he doesn't, hit a home run? Hard to say. Like it's, they tend to hire based on memory at ESPN, and that gave Aaron Boone a platform to talk about baseball the way he does, and that gave him an opportunity to get interviewed by the Yankees and eventually get that job. And the Red Sox Yankees rivalry was also at a pretty good height in 2017. Like the Yankees were very up and coming. The Red Sox won the division. They had a really good core, and it seemed at the time like both of them were gonna, be good for the next 10 years. Obviously, that didn't exactly work out, but Aaron Boone getting hired there did add a factor to the rivalry because every time they play each other, you see that replay.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the big timestamps in the rivalry, and yeah, and like when you think of some of the best managers today, like Alex Cora, Kevin Cash, AJ Hinch weren't remembered for any particular moments in their major
Rocco
league career.
Baldelli.
Yeah, Rocco
I know
Baldelli.
that I know that his team is struggling, but I mean, I don't think it's his fault. Honestly, I think he's a better manager than his record shows.
But yeah, those types of guys weren't remembered for any particular moments. I mean, I'm not going to discredit anything or any baseball knowledge or managing skills that Aaron Boone had, because he managed a very good team in 2019.
Yeah, especially with the injuries too.
Yeah, he was
like Yankee fans were upset that he didn't win Manager of the Year a year and a half ago, and I know that Manager of the Year is a very vanilla sort of stat. It doesn't really mean that much. I mean, like look at Paul Molitor; he got fired the year after he won it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it is very questionable. Like Rick Renteria finished in the top 3 last year.
Yeah, right.
And he had a legitimate case to win it. Like it doesn't happen like that.
Yeah, but it's a thing of like, it's results versus expectations. The Yankees have been expected to, if you told the Yankees fan before 2018, they would not be excuse me, they would not get into a World Series in the next 3 years, and they would be 31-29 to start the year in 2021. It would be extremely disappointing. So
yeah,
you go to the manager first there, unfortunately for him. But I don't know.
And I mean also like just the fact that every single person got ejected from the game after that strike 3 call except for Aaron Boone, I feel like that says a lot of what you need to know. Like that, like Chris and I, we were both Red Sox fans. That ball was a foot outside. That was not a strike.
Yeah.
It wasn't even close to being a strike. And I mean, Phil Nevin was in the parking lot ready to meet the umpire after the game. Like Marcus Timms was cursing him out. The entire Yankee bench was screaming except for Aaron Boone. Aaron Boone went out to talk for a little bit, didn't get ejected. My first thought was, why is Boone still here? Like he should be in the clubhouse right now. Like there's no you got to fight for your guys there because you just got screwed out of a bases loaded opportunity to walk it off, and now you're going to extras against a team that's been really hitting well in the clutch, and you can't even bother to say a few words in a raised voice to the umpire who just gave the game away.
Yeah. like, you kind of have to stick up there. You at least have to raise your voice a little bit.
And Aaron Boone's
there.
gotten ejected for far less too.
Oh yeah.
Like that ball was nowhere's near a strike.
Yeah, and like when you talk about manager moments, when this was a team who heading into the game had lost 9 out of 12. There's people talk about when sometimes managers will get into a feisty argument and will pump up their team. This was something that potentially could have set their team up for success down the road, maybe pump their team up to succeed later on. But I don't know, it was kind of weird how that was approached.
Also, there's a narrative that I want to get rid of, because I've seen a lot of this on Twitter being like, well, if Don Mattingly was there, or if Joe Torre was there, or if Joe Girardi or Buck Showalter was there, all these old school managers, they would have been screaming in the umpire's face like, you can't have these younger guys, that they don't. That's not true. Like the younger guys, like Alex, if the roles were reversed there, Alex Cora would have been out screaming. If you really want proof, look at Davey Martinez's ejection from a couple weeks ago at Wrigley Field. That guy's younger than, the majority of managers that I just named. He is a little bit older than most of today's managers, but I think he's like in his 50s, like younger 50s. It's 57. Okay, so he is a bit older, but I mean, like, when you compare that to the people I just mentioned, he's much younger, and he also played in the league, so
yeah, and
like,
Cora got ejected for talking balls and strikes this past week, so
yeah,
that was a thing.
Like, Cora is like seen as this, this very friendly manager that like, is more of a friend with his players than he is, but if he needs to open his mouth to an umpire, he will.
Yeah.
Like that's not just you need a 65-year-old dinosaur who doesn't understand what slugging percentage is to yell balls and strikes.
Yeah, very very easily. He is. Yeah, he goes out there.
Or the neighbor starts mowing as we're doing this.
Nice. But yeah, I remember. I think Cora. I remember in 2018 when Severino threw at who was it, Betts? Yeah, he threw at Betts, and Cora was livid. He was livid. But I guess that is a different situation than getting a bad call against you. So I guess maybe that's not the best comparison to make. Yeah. But yeah, is that what we got on the Yankees?
Yeah, I think that's everything we could have covered. I mean, I don't know. Like, I think at this point, I don't know if I blame them if they fired Aaron Boone. I think at this point it's justified. Yeah,
I mean, I wonder what candidates, because I do feel it will be a conversation for after the season as to who they get, because I imagine they'll try to get one of the, maybe they go after a guy like Will Venable, who was interviewing for managerial positions.
That'd be a great. He's a bench coach now, I think, with the
Red
Phillies?
Sox.
Oh, it's Red Sox, yeah, because he interviewed with the Phillies, yeah. I mean, like, there's a lot of guys up there that, and I don't know, because the only thing that worries me, and I don't know if they're going to do this again, but last time the Yankees were hiring, they only looked to former players.
Yeah. What is Sam Fuld doing? I know he's with some organization. He's not.
I think he might be with the Phillies.
Yeah, because Fuld went into like a front office position.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's.
Yeah, he's the current GM of the Phillies.
Wow. So yeah, I guess he probably won't be trying to manage, but.
Yeah, that's quite especially like when you're in the first couple of years of a GM tenure, like, and the Phillies aren't necessarily expected to be World Series contenders right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, you don't leave that job a year in.
Right.
I don't know, but it'll be interesting. I hope they don't just go with the former player route, because that's gonna limit a lot of their potential candidates.
Yeah. By former player, do you just mean former MLB player, former Yankees player?
Ooh. Like, I think like they interviewed, like, if they interviewed like 10 managers last time, at least 8 of them played for the Yankees.
Yeah, that's weird.
With like one of the exceptions being Chris Woodward, who now has a major league job.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty weird. All right, so I guess that leads into the part of the episode we've most prepared for. We'll start off. So we're going to talk about some players or subjects to highlight for good and bad reasons. We'll start out with the good reasons and talk about and do our Monday, June 7th, 2021 edition of How About That? So what player do you have to highlight for us today?
Players.
Nice. Let's go.
I got two. And they're both in the same division, actually.
Fun.
Can you hear me okay with the guy mowing in the background?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. All right. So we've been hearing a lot about Corbin Burnes this year. We've been hearing a lot about Brandon Woodruff this year. But the Brewers have a third ace that doesn't get a lot of attention, and his name is Freddie Peralta. And for the record, he had a really strong start his last time out. He actually took a no-hitter into, I believe, the 8th inning. I was going to go with him before that start. There's no way to prove that, unfortunately, so you're just going to have to take my word for it. But I was going to go with Freddie Peralta regardless of how his last start went, and he happened to have taken a no-hitter into the 8th inning on his birthday nonetheless. So Freddie Peralta has pitched in 12 games this season, and he has at least 6 strikeouts in all of them. And he is just one of 2 players in 2021 with 12 games with at least 6 strikeouts in 2021, with the other player being Shane Bieber. It's just Freddie Peralta and Shane Bieber. And he is also the major league leader in strikeouts per 9 since September 2019, out of 160 pitchers who have thrown at least 70 innings in that time. He has 13.89 strikeouts per 9 since September of 2019 and 103 innings pitched too. So that 70 innings pitched isn't necessarily a complete cherry pick. So Freddie Peralta has not been getting the love he deserves, and he is legitimately he's the 3rd best pitcher on the Brewers. He could be an ace in most rotations.
Yeah, Freddie Peralta. Yeah, he's been, because he was kind of a hybrid of a reliever and starter, and now it's like, all right, this guy clearly needs to be getting at least 5 innings in every time he pitches. His ERA is in the low 2s now, I'm pretty sure. It's he's been pretty insane, and the Brewers just seem to keep finding these guys.
Yeah, I mean, like, mind you, like, I picked the Brewers to win the NL Central. Some of our listeners may remember that, and I'm feeling pretty good about it right now. They've won, I think, 8 of their last 9. They're in first in the division right now, and there's certainly a long way to go. But I mean, I'm feeling good about it, and Freddie Peralta is one of those reasons why.
Yeah, and one of my issues with the Brewers heading into the season was their 3, 4, and 5 starters, because I believed in Woodruff and Burnes. However, if they got Freddie Peralta pitching like the ace that Burnes and Woodruff have been, I mean, that is lethal, and that is something you do not want to see in a 5-game series also.
Exactly, and Christian Yelich just came back too. So, like, this team's probably only going to get better from where they are right now.
Yeah, when you think about the Brewers, you mostly think of their offense, but pitching has improved. Maybe offensive
the offense has taken a bit of a step back as of right now, but I mean, it can only go up from the bottom. So
yeah, and not the most, I wouldn't say not the most competitive division, but not a very top heavy division. So they can do some damage with the roster that they have.
Absolutely. So my second, how about that? I'm staying in the NL Central, and this is definitely not nearly as established a guy as Freddie Peralta, but he's been doing some damage. Patrick Wisdom for the Chicago Cubs has been destroying the ball lately. He's played 13 major league games this year, and he is slashing .412, .444, .1088 for a .1533 OPS in 36 plate appearances with 7 home runs. And get this, Chris. He is the 15th player in baseball history to have a 1530 plus OPS in at least 35 plate appearances in their first 13 games of the season. He is also the first Chicago Cubs player to do so, and he joins a list with guys such as Albert Pujols, Barry Bonds, Larry Walker, Jimmy Fox, and Nap Lajoie, who have also done it among those 15. And now Patrick Wisdom is one of those names.
Yeah, he's been crazy. I'm looking at his Savant now. He has an 81% hard hit rate. That's nice. That's always good.
That's absurd.
Yeah, just breaking out. I mean, he's 30 years old, but he's found his stride just now, and it says he's a third baseman. So maybe if Chris Bryant leaves, maybe he can be the third baseman. But I guess
I mean, it's only a 13 game sample. You never really know.
Yeah.
Because he's been in the league since 2018, and he actually was on the Cardinals. Cardinals could certainly use him right now, but he's on the Cubs now, and he's crushing it on the other side of that rivalry.
And Chris Bryant has kind of been an outfielder, so I don't know.
Exactly. Apparently, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. All right. My how about that? And Patrick Wisdom getting a how about that? My how about that is a guy who, in his first start of the season, allowed 5 earned runs in 1/3 of an inning, but since then has a 1.38 ERA in 65 innings pitched. I'm talking about Kyle Gibson, who has been, who has had one of the best ERAs in the American League. And in fact, his 1.38 ERA in 65 innings pitched since his second start of the season is that ERA ranks second in the AL. Has the second best ERA in the AL since his second start of the season, and his FIP also ranks 6th in this span. And overall this year, his ground ball rate is the highest it's been since 2015. His pop-up rate is the highest it has ever been in the StatCast era, and his line drive rate is the lowest it's ever been in the StatCast era. So quality of contact is getting better for Gibson, and he's having a career year thus far. He's probably not going to have a low 2s ERA forever, but his expected ERA is in the low 3s anyway. So even with a little bit of good luck, he's still having a great year for the Texas Rangers. Did not really expect that one, but he's been excellent, and he deserves a how about that? So that does it for the players to highlight for good reasons. Now we're going to get into the players or subjects to highlight for bad reasons in our Monday, June 7th, 2021 edition of Slightly Alarming. So who do you have to highlight for bad reasons today?
So this guy has had pretty much a tale of 2 different seasons where he was great and now he's not so great. I'm looking at one of my players to watch in 2020, Matthew Boyd, the Detroit Tigers. He was a potential trade candidate for a while, and it really looked like he was getting, like, the Tigers were going to get some good players for him. After his first 7 starts, he had a 1.3 FWAR with a 1.94 ERA and 1.94 walks per 9. Ironically, he had the same ERA and walks per 9, which ranks 16, and that walks per 9 ranks 16th in the majors over that time. So he was one of the better pitchers in baseball. But since then, he has a 7.84 ERA and a 3.92 walks per 9, which is the 8th worst in the majors. So Matthew Boyd's season is kind of taking a turn for the worst over the last 4 weeks, maybe. I think it was May 16th when he made the first of those starts where he has a 7.84 ERA. And his trade value is kind of diminishing by the start right now.
Dang, Matthew Boyd.
Slightly alarming.
Yeah, that's rough. Yeah, not putting it together. Not quite putting it together. But my slightly alarming, we talked about him coming up. He's been kind of a talking point over the past couple years, but he has had a rough start to his major league career. Jarred Kelenic, he's just been riding the struggle bus, very much so in the past week. Overall, he is hitting .096 with a 378 OPS, and he is 0 for his last 39. 0 for his last 39 with 18 strikeouts. That's really all that needs to be said. And overall, his line drive rate is 12.3%, which is less than half the league average. So maybe that's probably the biggest issue you can point out in terms of what's on StatCast. But Jarred Kelenic, yeah, not the best start to his career. Maybe not having a season last year might have something to do with that. We talked about that with Kyle. Maybe that could be one of the issues. But yeah, he will probably recover at some point, whether it be this season or in the future. But Jarred Kelenic right now looking
slightly alarming.
So that does it for slightly for how about that's and slightly alarming statistics. And now we get into the preview of the week ahead. I think is MLB draft is tonight.
Nah, it's not. I thought it was, but it's not.
Because there's
only 3 games scheduled today, but there was initially 2, and there's a makeup game. I think today was supposed to serve as like a potential makeup date for any COVID, backed up games, but those have not been too much of an issue so far. That would be my guess, as it was built in that way. But it says the 2021 MLB draft is being held during the All-Star break, July 11th through 13th, 2021. But yeah, there's only 3 games tonight. There's still a matchup that I'll be interested in. It's going to be a late one. Adbert Alzolay versus Ryan Weathers. I mentioned Alzolay, I think it was 2 shows ago. Maybe it was last show. He's been pretty excellent so far. His strikeout to walk ratio has been one of the best in the league over the past few starts. And Ryan Weathers, he doesn't go deep into games, but he's a lefty with a 2.06 ERA. So that's not bad. And then on Tuesday, a lot of things aren't confirmed. You got what do you got? You got Ray Day on Tuesday, of course. Robbie Ray going up against Carlos Rodon. That's an interesting matchup. 2 lefties who pitch very differently, have different pitching styles, I guess.
I was kind of disappointed we couldn't see a Robbie Ray versus Dylan Cease game, but I think the Dylan Cease
that would have been the dream. But the Dylan Cease meme is over.
Yeah, it's pretty much over now.
And the Robbie Ray meme, for the reasons I always had it, is kind of over too. Like, his walk rate has been excellent this year.
Yeah, it's been weird.
And then on Wednesday you got Taijuan Walker facing Matt Harvey, which means Matt Harvey is going to be facing the Mets. That's not a great pitching matchup, but it's Matt Harvey facing his old team, the Dark Knight. That'll be interesting for sure. And I think that's about it for matchups that I'll be looking at this week or this time around.
All right. Well, series to watch. Funnily enough, the most interesting series were actually the most interesting series to watch as of last Monday's episode. The Red Sox and Astros are going to be rematching, and the Padres and Cubs are going to be rematching. The games Red Sox Astros is going to be at Fenway, and Padres Cubs is going to be at Petco. But so I decided to kind of talk about a series that might not pop off the page in terms of record versus record, but I think Twins Yankees might be interesting because Twins, I pointed out the Twins starting pitching staff as slightly alarming, and I pulled up their stats. Yeah, since April 10th, they have the second worst starter ERA in Major League Baseball. The Yankees, I believe, still have the least amount of runs per game in the American League. So it's like maybe the Twins can get their pitching in order in this series, or the Yankees can get their offense in order.
I have a take. Series. I think if the Twins lose this series, it's over.
If the Twins lose this series, all right.
Yeah.
I've been waiting to see like when I call my shot on the Twins being over, but yeah, I mean, they have an opportunity to like potentially, I don't know, gain ground in the wild card race here. But yeah, it's June and it's not looking good, and they've, we talked about how they could gain some ground against the Orioles and Royals, but that didn't really happen. They, on the road against the Orioles, they lost 2 out of 3, and then they split against Kansas City, which was not the best case scenario. So They haven't really gained much ground since we talked about them a couple weeks ago. Yeah. So that's the thing of like, yeah, what's going to crack? Is it going to be the Twins starting rotation who doesn't do well, or is it going to be the Yankees offense that just cannot score runs still? So yeah, that'll be an interesting battle. But yeah, that leads to the conclusion of the episode. We hope you enjoyed this one. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and want to watch the conversation as it happens, go to our YouTube channel and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's called Above Replacement Radio. If you want to follow us on social media, follow me on Twitter at Chris_Gianta. Follow Daniel on both Twitter and Instagram at Daniel_Curran, and follow the show Instagram at Above Replacement Radio for all the show needs. So we hope you enjoyed this one, and we hope to see you on Thursday, where we will be talking about all the happenings in Major League Baseball and more. So we will see you then.
This conversation is over.